There are times in life when people you once counted on, trusted, and loved seem to disappear without warning. You may not understand it at first. In fact, you may feel rejected, hurt, or confused. But I want to remind you today, sometimes the removal of people from your life is not a loss. It is a divine act of grace, a necessary step for your growth, and part of a greater plan that is unfolding in ways you cannot yet see. Every relationship in our lives is meant to serve a purpose, even if we don't always understand it at the time. People come into our lives not by accident, but by divine design. God is intentional with whom He places around us. Sometimes, the people who enter our lives are there to teach us something important, to help us grow in specific areas, or to challenge us in ways that we may not initially appreciate. Relationships are never random, even though they may seem so on the surface. God orchestrates each encounter with purpose, whether it's a brief interaction or a long-term connection. In the early stages of a relationship, it can be easy to assume that everyone around us is meant to stay forever. But relationships evolve, and the purpose of some people in your life may not extend past a particular season. For example, you may have had friends who helped you navigate a difficult time in your life, but once you learned the lessons you needed, that relationship naturally fades. Or there might have been a mentor who pushed you toward greater responsibility, but their role was to guide you for a period of growth, and once you reached the next level, you no longer needed that particular mentorship. What we often fail to realize is that just as people enter our lives for a purpose, they also exit when their assignment is complete. God knows exactly what relationships will lead you to your destiny, and He understands which ones will hinder your progress. Sometimes we hold on to relationships out of fear, nostalgia, or comfort, not recognizing that these connections no longer serve the purpose they once did. When we resist the natural ebb and flow of relationships, we can find ourselves stuck in situations that prevent us from growing or moving forward. But the beauty of purpose-driven relationships is that they are always for our good. Even if someone leaves, it's because the purpose has been fulfilled. That person may have been a teacher, a friend, a guide, or even a test. And once the lesson is learned, once the growth is achieved, once the purpose has been met, God will make room for new people who will help you in the next phase of your journey. Trust that the people who are meant to stay will remain, and the ones who are meant to leave will naturally fade away. Even when it feels painful or unsettling, God's wisdom in managing your relationships is greater than your own understanding. He removes people not to cause hurt, but to make space for the ones who will elevate you, stretch you, and support you in the next chapter of your life. In the end, the relationships that remain are the ones that will help you walk fully into your purpose. Life unfolds in seasons, much like the natural world around us. There are times of planting, times of growing, times of harvesting, and times of rest. Just as there is a season for everything under the sun, so too are there seasons in our lives. And each season brings a different set of relationships and experiences that are necessary for our growth and development. Sometimes we struggle because we want to hold on to people or situations that have reached their season, not realizing that God has something else in mind. The relationships and opportunities that God brings into your life are carefully timed. When He brings someone into your life, it's often to help you navigate a particular season. Maybe you're in a season of healing, and God brings someone to help you through the pain. Maybe you're in a season of learning and growth, and He places a mentor or teacher in your path to help you rise to the next level. But just as all seasons eventually change, so do the people in our lives. Some relationships are meant to be temporary seasonal friends who help you through a particular challenge or teach you a specific lesson. The challenge, however, is that we can become attached to people even when their purpose in our lives has been fulfilled. When the season is over, If we don't let go, we can hold ourselves back from the new opportunities and people that God has already set aside for our future. God is always working according to His divine timing, and He knows exactly when to introduce someone into your life and when it's time for them to go. Just like a tree sheds its leaves in the fall to prepare for the new growth of spring, God may remove people from your life to prepare you for the next season. These transitions can be difficult, but they are always part of His larger plan to align you with the next phase of your purpose. Understanding that life moves in seasons helps us trust God's timing. Not every relationship is meant to last forever, and sometimes God allows certain people to exit because He is preparing you for something greater. Trust that He knows when to bring the right people into your life and when to remove them. Each season is vital to your growth, and each person has a role to play in helping you become who you were always meant to be. Growth and maturity are essential parts of every person's journey, and they often come with the necessary pruning of relationships that no longer align with who we are becoming. God is deeply invested in your growth, not just your success or happiness, but in your character, wisdom, and spiritual maturity. Sometimes this process involves removing people from your life, not because they are bad, but because they no longer contribute to your growth or may even hinder it. At certain stages of life, we surround ourselves with people who help us stay comfortable, people who affirm where we are, and sometimes that's exactly what we need. But as we evolve, God calls us to move to higher levels of maturity, to step into new challenges, to break free from old mindsets, and to develop stronger, more resilient character. This often means that certain relationships must change or be removed altogether. If we stay surrounded by the same group of people who reflect the version of us that we've outgrown, we'll find ourselves stagnant, unable to reach the next level. The process of growth is not always comfortable. It's like a plant that needs to be pruned so it can grow stronger and produce more fruit. God's pruning is intentional and necessary for spiritual and personal maturity. Some relationships, while they may have been beneficial at one point, can become a distraction, a crutch, or even a source of regression when it's time for you to move forward. People who keep you in the past, who prevent you from evolving, or who do not encourage your growth will hold you back from your purpose. As you grow, your interests, values, and vision for the future may shift. The people you once felt connected to may no longer understand or support your new direction. You may find yourself outgrowing certain friendships, and that's okay. It doesn't mean there's animosity, it's just that you're no longer in the same place. Sometimes God removes people from your life because they are tied to an old version of yourself that is no longer who you are meant to be. In the same way, maturity requires a shift in how we see and approach relationships. As we grow, we must develop the ability to let go of what no longer serves us, even when that involves letting go of people. This does not mean rejecting or abandoning others. It means acknowledging that some relationships are not meant to travel with you into the next season of your life. By doing so, you make space for the right people, those who will encourage your maturity, help you grow, and hold you accountable as you continue to develop. Growth and maturity often demand that we step out of our comfort zones, that we challenge our old beliefs, and that we embrace the discomfort of change. Sometimes the people God removes from your life are the ones keeping you tethered to your old ways. Letting go of these relationships can be painful, but it is necessary to continue your spiritual and personal growth. It's not about rejecting others, it's about embracing the person you are becoming and aligning your relationships with the purpose and future God has designed for you. In every season of life, we are constantly exposed to a variety of influences, some positive, some neutral, and some negative. The people we surround ourselves with can significantly shape the course of our thoughts, decisions, and actions. This is why God, in His wisdom, sometimes removes certain individuals from our lives not to punish us, but to protect us from influences that could derail our purpose, hinder our growth, or even damage our spiritual and emotional well-being. Not every relationship is meant to nurture or support you in a way that aligns with God's plan for your life. There are people who come into your life with their own agendas, their own struggles, and sometimes their own toxic behaviors that can unknowingly pull you away from the path God has set for you. God understands that negative influences, whether through manipulation, negativity, jealousy, criticism, or unhealthy attachment, can gradually wear down your spirit, cloud your judgment, and distract you from your purpose. A negative influence doesn't always appear overtly harmful at first. It may be subtle: a friend who constantly sows seeds of doubt, a family member who discourages your dreams, a colleague who drags you into gossip or unproductive conversations. Over time, these seemingly small interactions can have a cumulative effect on your heart and mind, affecting your ability to focus on what truly matters. If left unchecked, these negative influences can lead you to make decisions that don't align with your values or God's will for your life. God knows that the wrong relationships can begin to shape your identity in unhealthy ways. They can erode your confidence, distort your perception of your worth, and keep you entangled in cycles of self-doubt or fear. He also knows that certain people may encourage habits or attitudes that pull you further away from His calling, whether that's indulging in gossip, compromising your integrity, living in fear, or failing to trust in His timing. By removing these negative influences, God is not just protecting you from specific people, He is safeguarding your potential, your peace of mind, and your progress. Just like a gardener who prunes away dead or unhealthy branches to ensure that the rest of the plant thrives, God sometimes removes individuals from your life who could hinder your growth, ensuring that you stay on course. God's protection isn't limited to physical safety. It extends to emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being. When certain people are removed from your life, it's not an indication of failure or rejection. It's a sign of divine intervention. God is clearing your path, guarding your heart, and making room for relationships that will strengthen you, uplift you, and lead you closer to your purpose. Those who have negative influences, whether intentional or unintentional, are simply not meant to be part of your journey to wholeness and fulfillment. Sometimes we don't realize how much we've been affected by negative influences until they are removed. It's only in the absence of these toxic relationships that we begin to feel lighter, freer, and more focused. You may not always understand why someone is taken from your life, but trust that God sees what you cannot. He knows the impact that person has on your spiritual growth, your emotional health, and your ability to step into the next phase of your purpose. In these moments, it's important to remember that God's protection is an expression of His love for you. He is keeping you from what could harm you and setting you up for a future that is aligned with His best for you. His removal of negative influences is not an act of rejection. It's an act of love. A way to guard you and guide you towards the people, opportunities, and experiences that will help you thrive. As you trust in His wisdom, you will begin to see how the removal of certain people has made room for the right people to come into your life. People who will encourage, uplift, and support you in your journey toward your destiny. The heart is not just the emotional center of your being. It is the wellspring of your life where your deepest desires, dreams, and passions reside. Proverbs 4:23 tells us, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. This verse underscores the vital importance of protecting the heart from influences that can damage its purity, integrity, and clarity. It's from the heart that we make our decisions, build relationships, and pursue our purpose. And because of this, God is deeply invested in guarding your heart, especially in situations where relationships or individuals might cause harm to your spiritual, emotional, or mental well-being. Your heart is vulnerable. It is easily swayed by the people you interact with and the environments you find yourself in. The wrong influences, whether from friends, family, or acquaintances, can pollute your heart, cloud your judgment, and distort your view of yourself and your purpose. God knows that the heart is delicate. It is where your aspirations, faith, and identity are cultivated, and it must be protected from anything that could cause it to be contaminated or misled. When God removes people from your life, it's often a protective measure to safeguard your heart. Not everyone who comes into your life has pure intentions. Some people, knowingly or unknowingly, may cause emotional harm. Others may manipulate or control, creating toxic environments where you feel less than, insecure, or pressured to conform to unhealthy patterns of thinking or behavior. These individuals might sow seeds of doubt, jealousy, bitterness, or fear, all of which can take root in your heart if left unchecked. The longer you remain in these types of relationships, the more vulnerable your heart becomes to the wounds that come from betrayal, manipulation, or emotional exhaustion. God, in His love and wisdom, understands the danger of allowing your heart to become too entangled in toxic relationships. That's why He sometimes steps in to remove people who are poisoning your spirit, whether consciously or unconsciously, His removal of these individuals is an act of love and protection. It's a way to prevent your heart from being broken or polluted so that you can remain focused on the higher calling He has placed on your life. Guarding your heart also means protecting your dreams, your self-worth, and your emotional energy. If you allow people to undermine your confidence, discourage your ambitions, or make you doubt your worth, your heart will begin to harden or close those off in an attempt to protect itself. But when you hold on to relationships that are not life-giving or supportive, you are allowing your heart to be distracted, bruised, or distracted from its true purpose. God, in His care for you, wants to protect that sacred space where your vision, faith, and identity are rooted. This protection is not only about keeping bad influences out, but also about ensuring that your heart remains open to the right influences, the people who will love you unconditionally, challenge you to grow, and encourage you to step into your full potential. God's desire is for your heart to be a wellspring of joy, peace, and clarity, not a reservoir of pain, doubt, or insecurity. When He removes someone from your life, He's not just keeping harm away, He's also making room for the right relationships, those who will nurture your heart, strengthen your vision, and help you grow into the person He created you to be. Sometimes, when relationships end, it's easy to feel rejected or hurt. But remember that God's protection over your heart is more important than any temporary discomfort you may feel. He sees what you cannot see, the ways in which certain individuals have been slowly eroding your peace, draining your energy, or diminishing your sense of worth. His love for you is so deep that He will remove those influences that threaten to overshadow the purity of your heart, so you can live freely, confidently, and fully in alignment with His plans for your life. When your heart is guarded, you can approach life with clarity, purpose, and discernment. You are better equipped to make decisions that honor God and align with the truth of who you are. You can pursue your dreams with boldness, unencumbered by the toxic opinions or negativity of others. You can walk in the fullness of your calling, knowing that God has preserved the core of who you are. Therefore, when relationships are removed from your life, whether through natural separation or divine intervention, trust that God is guarding your heart. He is protecting the place where your dreams, passions, and purpose are born. And as He removes people who threaten your emotional and spiritual integrity, He is preparing you to walk in the freedom and wholeness that He has always intended for you. Guarding your heart is not just about closing yourself off from others. It's about creating space for the right relationships to flourish. The ones that will encourage, empower, and elevate you to your divine destiny. As we journey through life, We often find ourselves in situations that in the moment may seem challenging or even painful. However, God's ultimate purpose is always to prepare us for something greater. One of the ways He does this is by removing people from our lives, those who no longer align with our destiny or are unable to support the next phase of our growth. These removals are not about rejection, they are about positioning you for greater opportunities that lie ahead. God's timing is impeccable, and when He removes certain individuals from your life, it is often because He is making room for something better. God knows the unique calling He has placed on your life, and He understands that as you move forward into new opportunities, you need the right people around you to help you step into your purpose. There are relationships that can only carry you so far. They may have been essential in one season, providing comfort, companionship, or guidance, but as you grow, God may need to introduce new relationships that can help you rise to new challenges and reach higher levels of success. Just as you can't fit a new growth spurt into old clothes, God sometimes removes certain relationships to make room for those who will better fit your next stage of development. Greater opportunities often require greater responsibility, greater vision, and a greater level of support. When God removes people from your life, it's often because He is setting you up to step into a place where the relationships you once had will not be sufficient for the new task ahead. He might remove individuals who are not equipped to help you navigate the higher responsibilities and increased demands of the next phase of your calling. For example, if you're about to step into a new role at work, or if you're transitioning into a more mature phase of your personal life, you may need mentors who are more experienced, friends who will challenge and support you in deeper ways, or partners who share your vision and can walk with you through the difficult decisions ahead. These are not just people who stand by your side in good times, but individuals who will help you rise, push you beyond your limits, and challenge you to grow into the person you need to be to succeed in your next endeavor. It's also important to recognize that greater opportunities often require a shift in mindset. As you progress, you may find that some of the people in your life are still holding on to old ways of thinking, old mindsets, or limited beliefs that could restrict your growth. To step into the bigger opportunities God has for you, you need to surround yourself with people who are forward-thinking, who believe in bigger possibilities, and who will encourage you to aim higher, stretch further, and dream bigger. These kinds of relationships may look different from the ones you've had in the past, but they are designed to help you step into your greater purpose. God's removal of people can feel unsettling at times, but it is a mark of His faithfulness to your future. He sees beyond the present moment and knows that the opportunities He is preparing for you are far greater than what you have experienced before. The relationships He removes are not a punishment, they are a sign that you are being prepared for the next chapter of your life. Trust that God, in His wisdom, knows exactly when to release certain people so He can bring the right ones into your life to help you seize the greater opportunities He has ordained for you. As you journey through life, you are constantly evolving spiritually, emotionally, mentally, mentally, and even physically. Every experience, every challenge, and every relationship shapes you into the person you are becoming. This process of transformation is a crucial part of your purpose, and God is always at work in you, shaping you into the person He designed you to be. But in order to truly step into the fullness of who you are becoming, there are times when God must remove people from your life. These individuals may have been part of your story up until now, but as you grow and change, they may no longer fit into the new version of you that God is bringing to life. The truth is, growth requires change. When God is calling you to a higher level, He's not just refining your skills or abilities, He's refining your character, your perspective, and your inner circle. Sometimes this means that certain relationships that were once comfortable or familiar must be released. These relationships, while valuable at one time, may no longer align with the person you are becoming. As you evolve into someone new, someone with a clearer sense of purpose, a deeper understanding of who you are, and a greater vision for the future, some people simply won't be able to keep up with the changes you are experiencing. Becoming someone new often means shedding old identities and patterns of behavior that no longer serve you. You might be evolving into someone who is more confident, more focused, more disciplined, or more aligned with God's purpose. This transformation can be uncomfortable, and it often challenges the expectations or dynamics of your old relationships. People who were accustomed to the old version of you may resist this growth, or worse, try to hold you back by reminding you of who you used to be. In these moments, God's removal of certain people can be His way of making space for new relationships that will support the new version of yourself. Think of it like a caterpillar undergoing metamorphosis. In the cocoon, the caterpillar is undergoing a complete transformation. The old form must be discarded in order for the butterfly to emerge. Similarly, the process of becoming someone new involves shedding old attachments, old ways of thinking, and sometimes even old friendships that are no longer aligned with your evolving identity. This is not always easy, but it is essential for your growth. As God works within you to help you become someone new, He may also shift the people who are meant to walk with you in this new season. The relationships that once nurtured you might now feel like they are holding you back from your greater purpose. God knows that in order for you to fully step into your destiny, you need people who can help pull out the greatness inside of you, challenge you to rise higher, and support you as you grow. Sometimes becoming someone new requires you to make difficult decisions about who you allow into your life, people who are not in alignment with your new vision, who try to pull you back into old habits or negative patterns, or who no longer encourage your growth, might need to be removed. It's not about animosity, it's about allowing yourself to be fully aligned with the person God is calling you to be. When you let go of relationships that no longer serve you, you make room for new, more supportive connections that will help you flourish in your new identity. God's work in you is ongoing, and He is continually shaping you into someone greater than you were before. As you continue to evolve and step into the fullness of your potential, trust that the people He removes from your life are being replaced by those who will help you walk out your purpose with greater clarity and strength. Remember that becoming someone new is not about losing the people who have been part of your past. It's about embracing the person you are becoming and trusting that God will bring the right people into your life at the right time to support you in your growth. You are on a journey of transformation, and with each step you are becoming more of who God has destined you to be. Divine refinement is a process of spiritual and personal transformation that God takes us through to shape us into the best versions of ourselves. This process involves pruning, purging, and polishing, removing what is unnecessary or harmful so that we can shine more brightly in alignment with God's purpose for our lives. Just as gold is refined by fire to remove impurities, we are often refined through trials, challenges, and transitions that test our faith, character, and endurance. In many cases, this divine refinement includes God removing people from our lives not to harm us, but to prepare us for the greater purpose and opportunities ahead. God's refining process is never arbitrary. It is deliberate, intentional, and always done with love. He sees the potential within us, the person we are becoming, and He works tirelessly to shape us into that image. Sometimes we resist the refining process because it involves discomfort, losing relationships, letting go of old mindsets, and even facing difficult seasons of isolation. But the truth is, divine refinement is necessary for growth. When God removes people from your life, it's often because they are not in alignment with the new season He is preparing you for. They may be distractions, negative influences, or simply part of a previous chapter that must be closed in order for the next one to unfold. Refinement can be painful because it challenges our attachment to things, people, and ideas we hold dear. It's a process that tests our desires, our emotions, and our faith. Just as a sculptor chisels away at a block of marble to reveal the statue hidden inside, God sometimes allows relationships, jobs, or situations to be removed in order to reveal the person He has been shaping all along. The pain of this process isn't an indication of punishment, but of divine love. Just like a parent who disciplines a child for their own good, God's discipline and pruning are always aimed at our growth, healing, and future success. In the refining process, God works in us to purify our hearts, strengthen our character, and refine our perspective. He uses trials, people, and situations to help us develop traits like patience, humility, wisdom, and resilience. But He also uses the removal of certain relationship tips to help us focus more clearly on our own spiritual development and calling. People who were once close to us may no longer resonate with our spirit, values, or mission, because we are growing into a new identity, one that is more aligned with God's perfect plan for us. These relationships may have once served their purpose, helping us navigate a previous season, but in this new season of refinement, they might no longer be able to walk with us. This can be difficult to accept, but it's essential to the process of becoming who God has designed us to be. God's refinement in our lives is about helping us shed off anything that holds us back from our highest calling. He's not simply trying to take things or people away from us. He's clearing the path for the greater blessings He has in store. Divine refinement often involves periods of pruning where God cuts away the dead branches, the unhealthy attachments, old wounds, bad habits, and toxic relationships that are preventing us from growing. These cuts may feel painful, but they are necessary for us to produce more fruit in our lives. Through this process, God is preparing us for a life of greater purpose, greater impact, and greater fulfillment. The beauty of divine refinement is that, though it can be uncomfortable and challenging, it leads to greater things. When we allow God to refine us, we emerge from the process more capable, more aligned with His will, and more able to handle the responsibilities and opportunities He is preparing for us. He does not remove people from our lives to cause harm. He removes them to make space for the new relationships and opportunities that will help us fulfill our calling. As you go through the process of divine refinement, remember that God is always working on your behalf. Every step, every change, and even the removal of certain people or circumstances is part of His divine plan to mold you into the person you are meant to be. Though the process can be hard, trust that God's hand is guiding you and He will not leave you where you are. Through His refinement, He is preparing you for something far greater than you could ever imagine, something that will bring you closer to His purpose and bring glory to His name. Space for new relationships is not just a physical concept, it's also emotional and spiritual. As you go through different seasons of life, the people around you play a crucial role in shaping your experiences and your growth. However, there are times when God removes people from your life, whether gradually or suddenly, in order to create space for the right relationships that will better align with your purpose and the next phase of your journey. These transitions can be difficult, but they are essential to your growth, as they allow room for the kind of relationships that will support, challenge, and elevate you in your destiny. The relationships you have today might not be the relationships you need tomorrow. As you evolve spiritually, emotionally, and even professionally, you'll find that your circle of influence must evolve too. The people who once walked with you through certain seasons might no longer be able to walk with you in the same way, because you're being prepared for something new. This could be because they no longer share the same vision, values, or goals as you, or because they have simply fulfilled their purpose in your life. God, in His divine wisdom, knows when to allow these relationships to fade away, not because they are bad or harmful, but because they are no longer in alignment with where you are headed. When God removes certain people from your life, He is making space for new relationships that will help you grow in ways that were previously impossible. These new relationships might be mentors, friends, clients, partners, or even colleagues who will challenge you, sharpen you, and propel you forward. Just as a gardener prunes a tree to allow for new growth, God sometimes removes old relationships to prepare you for new opportunities and connections that will better support the person you are becoming. New relationships often bring fresh perspectives and new insights that push you to think bigger, act bolder, and dream higher. They are relationships that will help you stretch beyond your comfort zone and support you in achieving goals you might have once thought were unattainable. These relationships may not always be easy or free of challenges, but they are designed to help you grow, mature, and become the best version of yourself. Through these new connections, you will gain wisdom, encouragement, and insight that will fuel your journey. The space created by God, removing certain people, also allows you to form deeper connections with others who share your values, vision, and purpose. As you grow, you begin to attract people who resonate with your new mindset and higher calling. These are the relationships that will challenge you to reach your potential, help you maintain your integrity, and stand by you in the face of difficulties. Sometimes, these relationships may surprise you. They may come in the form of people you never expected. But God knows exactly who you need to fulfill the next phase of your mission. In addition, the space God creates for new relationships is not just about meeting new people. It's about refining the quality of your existing relationships. As people who were once in your life for a particular purpose step away, you may find that the relationships that remain grow stronger, more authentic, and more meaningful. The people who are meant to stay will be the ones who genuinely support your growth, challenge you to be better, and stand with you in your pursuit of God's will for your life. Trusting that God is clearing space for new relationships requires faith, especially when you are faced with the pain of letting go of people you thought would always be a part of your life. But remember, this is not a sign of loss, it is a sign of God's provision. Just as He has removed some relationships for your good, He is also preparing to bring new ones that will serve His greater purpose for you. In order for new relationships to come in, you must be willing to make room for them emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Sometimes we cling to old relationships because they are familiar, even if they no longer align with our growth or purpose. But God calls us to trust Him, to release what is past, and to believe that He will bring the right people into our lives at the right time. Space for new relationships means opening your heart to the possibility of something better. It means allowing God to fill the void left by those who have moved on, trusting that the new relationships He brings will be more aligned with His plan for you. Whether these new relationships come in the form of deeper connections with old friends, new business partnerships, or entirely new circles of influence, trust that they are part of the journey He's guiding you on. The process of making space for new relationships is not always easy, but it is always worth it. It requires faith in God's timing and a willingness to let go of the past in order to embrace the future. As you allow God to clear the way, you'll find that the relationships that come into your life will be more meaningful, more purposeful, and more in alignment with the person you are becoming. And ultimately, these new relationships will help you grow, thrive, and step fully into the calling God has placed on your life. Trusting in God's sovereignty is a cornerstone of faith, especially when navigating the challenges and changes that life inevitably brings. God's sovereignty means that He is supreme, all-knowing, and all-powerful. He rules over everything, and nothing happens without His permission or oversight. It's this unshakable truth that allows us to rest in the assurance that God is always in control. Even when life feels uncertain, when relationships change, or when things seem to be falling apart. When we trust in God's sovereignty, we acknowledge that He is not only aware of our circumstances, but that He is actively working all things together for our good, even in moments where we might not understand the reasons behind what's happening. One of the hardest aspects of trusting in God's sovereignty is accepting that His plans and timing are often different from our own. As human beings, we want immediate answers, quick resolutions, and clear explanations. But God's ways are higher than ours, Isaiah 55:8-9, and His understanding of what we need and when we need it far exceeds our limited perspective. Sometimes we face painful situations like the loss of relationships or the removal of people from our lives, and it's easy to feel confused, abandoned, or uncertain. But when we trust in God's sovereignty, we trust that He has a greater purpose at work, one that is ultimately for our good and His glory, even if we don't see it right away. When God removes people from our lives, it can feel like a loss. We may not understand why someone had to leave or why a certain relationship ended, but trusting in God's sovereignty means believing that God is orchestrating everything in our lives according to His divine plan. He is the one who knows our true needs, our future, and the journey that lies ahead. Every relationship, every encounter, and every shift in our lives is filtered through His perfect will. So even when a door closes or a relationship fades away, we can trust that God is clearing the way for something better, for relationships that are more aligned with His purpose for us. God's sovereignty doesn't just apply to the big events of life, but also to the smaller, everyday moments. He is present in the intricate details of our lives, guiding us, protecting us, and teaching us through each experience. While we may not always understand the reasons behind the challenges we face, we can trust that nothing in our lives is outside of God's control. When people are removed from our lives, whether through natural separation, distance, or even through a difficult conflict, it is often God's way of aligning us with His perfect plan. Trusting in His sovereignty means surrendering our need for control and placing our lives in His hands, knowing that He will never lead us astray. Another key aspect of trusting in God's sovereignty is understanding that His plan for us is always better than anything we could plan for ourselves. We might feel heartbroken, confused, or even angry when certain relationships are removed, but God, in His wisdom, knows exactly what we need to fulfill our purpose. His plan often includes pruning, cutting away the things that are no longer helpful or healthy, including certain relationships that may have fulfilled their purpose. God is not punishing us by taking people away. He is positioning us for greater opportunities, greater growth, and greater fulfillment. It is also important to recognize that God's sovereignty doesn't just protect us from harm. It is a guarantee that He will work through every circumstance to build us up. Even when we experience loss or struggle, we can trust that God is refining us and shaping us in people we are meant to be. This can be especially difficult when we face rejection, disappointment, or emotional pain from the loss of relationships, but trusting in God's sovereignty means we believe that He is using every moment to shape our character, strengthen our faith, and draw us closer to Him. God doesn't waste anything. Even in the most painful situations, He is working behind the scenes, bringing good out of what feels bad, and turning every heartache into a stepping stone toward our destiny. This trust in God's sovereignty is also a reminder that His timing is perfect. While we might think we know what's best for us, God sees the bigger picture and has a better understanding of when to bring people into our lives and when to remove them. Sometimes we may hold on to relationships longer than we should, afraid to let go, even when we sense that they are no longer serving us. But when we trust in God's sovereignty, we trust that He will remove relationships at the right time, when it is necessary for our growth, healing, or progression into the next season of our purpose. We can have peace in knowing that He is not removing people out of spite, but out of love to make space for something better, more aligned with the person He is making us to be. In the midst of life's transitions, including the removal of people from our lives, trusting in God's sovereignty gives us peace, assurance, and hope. It helps us resist the temptation to panic, to control, or to act out of fear. Instead, we can lean into His wisdom, trusting that He knows exactly what we need. Even when we don't understand the process or the reason behind the change, we can rest in the certainty that God is orchestrating every detail of our lives and His plans are always good. He is never caught off guard and He will never lead us astray. Trusting in His sovereignty allows us to surrender our worries, our plans, and our understanding, and to walk confidently forward, knowing that He is in control and working everything together for our good. As we reflect on the profound truth that God removes people from our lives for reasons greater than we can fully understand, let us remember the words of Jesus in Matthew 11:28-30. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. For I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light. In these words, Jesus calls us to trust Him with our burdens, our questions, and our hurts. He understands the pain of loss, the confusion of change, and the discomfort of the refining process. Yet He assures us that when we walk with Him, when we trust His timing, His wisdom, and His sovereignty, we will find rest. Rest in knowing that He is always working for our good. Rest in knowing that He is guiding us through every season of life, including the ones where relationships are removed and new ones are on the horizon. Rest in knowing that His plans for us are greater than our own, and that He is shaping us, refining us, and preparing us for something even more glorious. As we leave here today, let us walk with renewed faith in the sovereignty of God, trusting that He knows what is best for us, and that every relationship, every change, and every challenge has a purpose in His divine plan. Let us lean into His love and guidance, knowing that we are never alone, and that He is always with us, leading us to greater things. In Jesus' name we trust and believe. Amen.